Imagine this. A young husband and father wakes up in the middle of the night, drives 14 miles to his in-laws' home, and carries out an act so brutal that it shocks an entire country. But here's the twist. When it's over, he turns himself in and insists he remembers nothing. Was it a cover-up, or was he truly asleep the whole time? This is the case of Kenneth Parks, one of the most controversial trials in Canadian history. It was just after 4 a.m. on May 24th, 1987. Kenneth, only 23 years old at the time, was dozing on the couch in front of the television. He'd been exhausted from playing rugby earlier that day, drained from the weight of personal struggles, and restless from the stress that consumed him. Without warning, he slipped on his shoes, pulled on a coat, and got into his car. Instead of simply driving around, he headed straight to his in-laws' home in Scarborough, Ontario, a full 14 miles away. When he arrived, he let himself in with a key, walked through the quiet house, and entered the bedroom where his in-laws, Barbara and Dennis Woods, were asleep. What happened inside that room was horrifying. Barbara would not survive the night, and Dennis came dangerously close to the same fate. But the strangest part came afterward. Kenneth, covered in blood, drove directly to a nearby police station. He walked inside, looked at the officers, and said, "I think I killed some people." The officers were stunned. But what truly baffled them came next. Kenneth claimed he had absolutely no memory of the attack, not the drive, not entering the home, not the violence, nothing. According to him, he had been sleepwalking. Police questioned him again and again. 7 separate interviews, all with the same details, the same timeline, and no inconsistencies. Kenneth explained that he'd recently attended his first Gamblers Anonymous meeting, where he was told to come clean with his family. The next morning, over Sunday brunch, he had planned to confess everything. His gambling addiction, the money he had stolen from work, the charges he faced, and the fact that his family was about to lose their home. The stress was unbearable. But instead of a difficult conversation, tragedy struck. Doctors rushed to evaluate him. Their findings were puzzling. Kenneth showed clear signs of depression and anxiety, but none of the hallmarks of psychosis or mental illness. No delusions, no hallucinations, no violent history. Just one unusual trait: he was a lifelong sleepwalker. He had a history of sleep-talking, sleepwalking, even night terrors. Specialists said he was such a deep sleeper that waking him was nearly impossible. And it wasn't just him. This pattern ran in his family. Medical experts testified that he suffered from something called non-REM sleep arousal disorder. In rare cases, people with this condition can carry out complicated actions while still asleep, walking, driving, even acts of aggression, without any conscious awareness. In the courtroom, the word used to describe it was automatism, meaning an involuntary act, enkephalech. The defense leaned heavily on science. They argued that Kenneth's extreme stress, lack of sleep, and emotional turmoil had triggered an episode. He wasn't awake. He wasn't aware. And if that were true, the law said he couldn't be held responsible. The prosecution, however, painted a very different picture. To them, Kenneth's story was simply too convenient. He had been drowning in debt, facing criminal charges, and about to make humiliating confessions to his in-laws. Was sleepwalking really the cause, or was it the perfect excuse? After weeks of testimony from doctors, scientists, and family members, the jury faced an impossible decision. Was Kenneth Parks a cold, calculating man who staged his defense around sleepwalking? Or was he a victim of his own mind, a man trapped in a nightmare he didn't even know was happening? The verdict stunned the nation. Not guilty. Not guilty of murder. Not guilty of attempted murder. Not guilty of manslaughter. The jury believed he'd been asleep, completely unaware of his actions. It was one of the first successful cases in which the sleepwalking defense was used in court. And what happened afterward? Kenneth never repeated the behavior. There were no new reports of violence, no dangerous episodes of sleepwalking. For the most part, he slipped quietly out of the public eye. But the questions his case raised remain just as chilling today. Can a person truly commit such extreme acts while asleep? Or was this a carefully crafted story that allowed a guilty man to walk free? The truth may never be fully known. So, what do you think? Was Kenneth Parks an innocent victim